So yeah, welcome everyone to the online follow-up session for the Reboot Your Soil course that we've just recently run with GeoCatch. Thank you for coming in. Those of you that haven't been able to make the face-to-face, yeah, thanks for watching in. If you are watching it later as a video, it's a pretty informal session. It's really just following up on any Q&A that you have regarding your soil. And so I've got your soil tests and I've got a few other things, but it's really just covering things that you want to cover. So it might be a bit of a short session because we've only got a few people live. But what I thought I might do is just start by going over the process again of following the effective process of sort of making an action plan for your soil. So I'll just share my screen and get a handout going. Just bear with me, everyone. Just work it out. You guys over there, and I'll put the share screen. Yeah. So bear with me. Hopefully you can see that screen there now with your soil tests on it.
Yes.
Yep, great. All right. So what we've been doing through the Reboot Your Soil course is actually going through a process. And the process we followed is basically outlined in the soil action plan, which is here. And it basically started with being able to identify your different soil types. And a lot of people had quite a low fertility, sandy soil types that had a small cation exchange capacity. If you remember, the cation exchange capacity is the size of this charge on a soil's colloids, and colloids include the clay and the humus. And a lot of your soils had a relatively small charge, and that charge is measured with something called the CEC, which we were able to estimate by adding up our exchangeable cations, which I haven't done that column, so I'm in trouble there, but I'll do some numbers for what we're doing this session. So after that, after we know our soil type, is it a small CEC, low fertility soil with a sandy texture, or is it a clay soil with a moderately large CEC with some fertility in it? Like there'll be different types of soils, although a lot of you guys had low fertility sandy soils with small CECs. Once you know your soil type, it kind of helps you understand the capacity or the productive potential and the strengths and weaknesses of that soil in terms of drainage and how easily it holds on to nutrients and its potential response to lime, different rates of lime, etc. So that's the first step in good soil management, is being really clear about your different soil types. The second step is to then assess each of your soils and identify and see whether they're in good condition or not. Are they functioning well? And by that, I mean, are they cycling their water and nutrients effectively? Are they providing a good environment for roots to grow? Are there soil-borne diseases? Are they chemically quite stable in terms of pH, etc.? So those aspects of a soil are its functioning, and we usually use the term for that soil health. So is the soil in working order? Is it in good condition? No matter what soil type, they all need to be in good condition, and the term used for that is soil health. So what we did to assess soil health was we went through a checklist, what I call the soil health checklist. We looked at organic carbon, the carbon to nitrogen ratio, which is the quality of the organic matter in the soil, because the carbon in your soil kind of estimates your organic matter, and the carbon to nitrogen ratio kind of tells you the quality of that organic matter. Does it break down relatively easily, or is it quite slow to break down? And then we looked at pH, we looked at salinity briefly, and we looked at some of these things which are called exchangeable cations, which are these positively charged nutrients, and there's 6 main ones we worry about: calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, hydrogen and aluminium, we kind of looked at what proportion are they on that colloid, that charge zone in the soil, which we measured with the CEC. So we looked at the percentages of those to see whether there's any kind of, because when the proportions are kind of extreme, if you like, it can sometimes disrupt soil function. So it's not about nutrients, it's about does it disrupt the functioning of that soil, and particularly structure. So high sodium, for example, disrupts soil structure. High aluminium can really disrupt nutrient cycling and throw chemistry out and biology out as well. And relatively high magnesium can be problematic as well. But it is important to note with any of these aspects of soil health that they all interact with the other aspects. So, for example, if you have relatively high aluminium percentage, which some of you guys did, that may, and or like sodium, it may be countered by good organic matter levels that may kind of buffer it or stabilize it. So even though the chemistry is not ideal, the organic matter and the plants are kind of counteracting that to keep the soil in working order, in a good balance. So it is a matter of looking at everything holistically. So we went through a checklist, and I know some of you guys had identified where your soil health indicators or characteristics were out of balance. They didn't meet the benchmark. And this was the other skill that we practiced, was benchmarking our soil. And so we can, for example, if your carbon level is like 1.5, and I suggested to you that a benchmark for carbon is around 2% and higher. So that's kind of saying my score is not great. It's not, the soil could be improved. The functioning of the soil will probably be improved if I lift my organic matter level as measured with carbon. So I might put a sad face and say this is a bit of an issue. The soil's not working fully well. So that's known as a soil constraint. And the other symbol you could use is a $sign, because you're probably losing yield potential in pasture growth, and or it will cost you money to fix. So that's why soil constraints can be considered, can be considered a soil constraint, can be considered an economic issue to deal with. So that's what we did. We went through that soil health checklist, and hopefully people have identified any soil constraints that they have. There is also, it's also important to go out and look at your soil physically in the field, like what's the ground cover like, are the roots going down deeply, and I'm pretty sure we had a couple of soils that were relatively low in organic matter and measured it with carbon on the test, but they also had quite shallow root systems. And so those two things combined are going to mean, you know, you've got some major soil constraints. So we had a practice at field assessment of soils as well, and there's a bit of a checklist we kind of looked at briefly there. So hopefully you've been able to complete that action plan as best you can, and that will help you, the soil health checklist part of it, that will help you identify any probable soil constraints that you might have. The other thing that good soil management, the other step in good soil management, is to then really think about, on my soil types that I'm managing in this paddock, am I being realistic as to what I'm expecting? Like, why am I expecting to milk so many cows or to have so much live weight gain in my animals from doing beef production? Why am I expecting so much production when this soil type maybe isn't a highly productive soil type? It can still be profitable, but maybe I need to reduce my expectations about how many animals I can actually carry on this place. And if I have less animals but I have less costs, then I could be more profitable. And then the next step is being really clear, if you have soil constraints or soil health issues, is what should I be aiming for? Like, if my carbon is a bit low or my root depth is a bit shallow, let me set some targets. So I've got 5 centimetres of roots in my soil and I really want to get to 10 to 15 centimetres. There's a specific target. So then the question is, how do I improve my soil health? What can I do? So I've got big soil health issues or small ones. What can I do to fix them? And that's where you complete this next section, step 5. So for example, to improve the rooting depth of grasses in a pasture, the best thing is to manage your grazing. So you have what we call planned rotational grazing to give the grass certain recovery time. So not only will it grow more effectively above ground, it will also build more root systems when it has more time to recover. And in the long run, that will actually make your pasture more productive as well as improve the soil. So you might want to add lime if that's a clear issue that's emerged. Whatever it is, there might be some specific things you need to do to improve your soil constraints. And finally, the last thing we tackled on day 3 of the sessions of the course was looking at nutrients. And with nutrients, we followed a 5-step process. And the first step was to kind of look at what's the total fertility or my inherent fertility. And most of you guys had fairly low fertility soil types, but you can sort of put an estimate of them in there into your action plan. You can just say, look, they're all very low, Dave, so I'm putting a VL against everything, or you can do them individually as well, but most of you guys do have relatively low fertility soil types. The second big step is to make sure you're improving the root zone so that and the biology in the soil so that nutrients, whatever nutrients are there or whatever fertilizers you apply, they cycle really effectively and they're taken up by the plants really efficiently. So without optimizing the nutrient cycling capacity of the soil, your fertility management will never be 100% very good. The third step we looked at was we assessed the available nutrient levels in the soil, and we just did phosphorus and sulfur for the day 3, and we looked at the way you assess the available level. So for example, someone might have had 15 available sulfur, sorry, that's supposed to be 15, using the Colwell method, which was the way we looked at it, the Colwell available P method, which is the one used in WA, and the benchmarking has all been done on for nutrient management under those extension programs. And then we I gave you some rule of thumb benchmarks to do that. And so you can score your result against a benchmark, and that helps you then decide, is my available levels low, moderate, or high? And that's really the decision you're making, because if they're low, you're probably going to have to improve the levels of phosphorus, available phosphorus. If they're high, it's not a limiting nutrient for you, and if it's moderate, it may not be a big issue, or it may be it's a bit harder to sort of make that call. So that's what we did as the final step, and basically that way it allows you to pull together what the key soil constraints that you have are and what the key limiting nutrients are that you have. And we only practice on phosphorus and sulfur, but obviously potassium is another big one for you guys in the sandy soils as well as nitrogen. So that was the main purpose of the action plan. It's to help you follow a logical process. So I can't stress enough that if you didn't fully complete it during the course sessions, then it's really worth taking the time to do that, because that will pull it all together for you. And the last step is to really think about how you're going to monitor your soil going forward. So are you going to use soil tests every year or every 2 or 3 years? Are you going to go out with a spade and look at the soil from time to time? Like, just have a bit of a clear think about how you're going to monitor your soil, because your soil is kind of one of the most important assets in your business after the people. Soil is there 365 days of the year, and apart from rates, even in WA you get charged rates, isn't it, even though you've got lots of mining money. So apart from rates, you're not getting taxed on your soil yet. I'm sure they'll think of a way to do it at some point. So that was the action plan, and there's a space for notes at the end. So I guess that's just a bit of a refresh of the process we followed. So I've got Mark, Gary, and David. You guys have all come along, so thank you. If you guys got specific things, then now's the time to throw them at me, some questions, and we can go through them. And I can also look at everyone's soil test results on the table too if you want to at the end as well.